most civilizations are not destroyed from the outside. They're destroyed through suicide, through cultural suicide.
So what is the threat? Because you love the UK, it's all going great. What is the threat that you see on the horizon, and how do you prove that threat is real?
If you look at history, and I'm no historian, but if you read interesting people about history, most civilizations are not destroyed from the outside. They're destroyed through suicide, through cultural suicide. And I think one of the big threats I've been raising the alarm on for a long time is what people talk about as woke culture or progressive, rampant progressivism, whatever you want to call it. But at the heart of it is the idea that we are bad. Our society is bad. Our history is bad. It's based on, slavery and colonialism and exploitation and imperialism and all of this stuff. And how do you prove that? Well, there's several ways to think about it. The first one is, if you thought your society was bad, why would you defend it? Why would you teach its values to your children? Why would you want it to persevere and continue to exist? If you look geopolitically, in the last many years, as I've been predicting now for a long time, look at what happened in Ukraine. Look at what happened in Afghanistan with the withdrawal of American forces. Look at what China is now doing in terms of how muscular it's becoming about Taiwan. As the West loses confidence, as the West becomes more divided, as the West becomes more distracted, as we spend more time, it's a trite thing to say, but as we spend more time arguing about what a woman is instead of real stuff that matters, other people around the world see that as weakness and they capitalize on it. And I'm convinced that the things we have seen in terms of geopolitics in the last many years would not be happening if we were not signaling weakness and division.
You politically affiliated at all? Do you consider yourself to be on the left or the right or neither? Or
Well, here's how I think about it, right? My interest is in our society thriving, our culture thriving, our culture doing better. And I don't think the right or the left is always right. It's contextual, right? There are times when you want higher taxes and more government spending. There are times when you want lower taxes and less government spending. There are times when you need more immigration. After World War II, Britain, Australia, Canada, many countries wanted more immigrants to come because they needed to rebuild their society. There are times when you need less immigration. And so I think it's about where you are in the moment as opposed to these rigid ideological positions like, I am pro-immigration or I'm anti-immigration. I think both of those are pretty misguided positions. What you want is to be in the right place at the right time. So I don't know if you've noticed this, but it seems to me like political labeling is now mostly a weapon that people use against 100%. Their opponents, right? Like, if I don't agree with you, it's convenient for me to label you as a member of the opposite tribe. So if I'm on the right, well, you're a communist. If I'm on the left, well, you're far right. And this is how we have conversations now. I have some positions that are currently considered right-wing. I have some positions that are currently considered left-wing. And, one of the things I really learned from my history and my family's history, and I talk about this in the book, as you know, is that ideology is a very bad thing always. And so the moment you buy into a prepackaged set of ideas about what you're supposed to believe, you very quickly find yourself having to believe things that you don't actually agree with so that you get to stay in the tribe. Mm-hmm. I don't care about the tribe. I care about the truth.
There's a quote you referenced, which I actually sent to my friends earlier on, and I was talking to them. It is, I have no interest whatsoever in the false dichotomy of right versus left. If there is one thing my Soviet childhood taught me, it's that subscribing to someone else's ideology will always inevitably mean having to suspend your own judgment about right and wrong to appease your tribe, which is on chapter 1 of your book, on page 21. And it really, as a podcaster, when you really you're genuinely curious and you want to interview lots of people from lots of backgrounds, the great thing about doing this job is I have to teach myself to always look at the other side. So if you represent one side, my job in many respects is to try and understand the other side so we can talk about the other side as well, to represent the other side. And that's been really useful for me because it's stopped me falling into the trap of conforming with a tribe. And also, as you say, when you talk about the right and left thing being a label and a weapon that people will use, it's the same. When a journalist wants to write about me, what they'll do is they'll find the most right-wing person that's ever been on my podcast and they'll say, he interviews people like...
Yes.
insert
Yeah.
name, insert name.
Yeah.
As if to say, I am those two people.
Yes. Or in our case with trigonometry, what happens is we are people who started our show because we were pushing back against the woke progressive dogma in our comedy industry at the time. And so a lot of our early guests were exploring perspectives that were not ours. We were two Remain voters, and when the Brexit vote happened, we were really confused because we were part of that kind of elitist, metropolitan, I don't know anyone who voted Brexit kind of thing. But my perspective was, I found it odd that people were saying, well, the reason people voted for Brexit is because half the country's racist. And I was like, I mean, come on. That's just factually incorrect. We both know that. That's not to say that bigoted people don't exist, and it doesn't mean that some Brexit voters weren't racist. But to explain a complex phenomenon like that by a simplistic explanation of that just wasn't accurate. So we had a lot of people who were pro-Brexit on the show to understand where they're coming from. Well, one of the things that happens is if you talk to a lot of people from one side, then the people from the other side say what you just said. Well, he's talked to this, this, and this. I won't go on his show. Right?
Yeah.
And then they use that against you to say, well, you only talk to these people. And I'm like, we've invited your Owen Joneses and your Ash Sarkars and all the others, and Ash should come on soon. And we've had lots of people from different perspectives. But if I'm writing an article about you, or if I want to tweet something about you, it's very easy to use.